Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. Leeds United 0, Burnley 1. It's our match reaction, our post-mortem of the defeat yesterday. I'm Stephen Brown, and with me as ever to dissect this and get into it all is Jason Booker. Afternoon, Jason.
Afternoon, mate.
If you're watching along live on YouTube, get your comments in. What did you think of the game? Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Like the video, of course. And if you're watching along on X, please do give us a retweet, comment, get involved, and give the page a follow as well. So Leeds United lost to fellow promotion-chasing Burnley in an early kind of blow against our top two title hopes, I guess, our promotion hopes. I just kind of want to get my kind of thoughts out there about this because I've been kind of I was desperate to do this review last night. I'm not going to lie, Jason. I was absolutely just desperate. It could work out with the schedule, unfortunately, but I think I've just been thinking about this since yesterday, and the reaction to it obviously is strong. I think anytime Leeds drop points this season, it's going to be a strong reaction, whether you agree with it or not. I think the pressure that's on this season is high. The demand is high. Expectations are through the roof. It's basically promotion and that's it. Automatics and that's it. My thoughts on the game yesterday, I'll just kind of give you a general overview and then we'll get into it with yourself there, Jason, get your take on it as well. Is, the old quote, a game of two halves. I feel like that is true. I see both sides of the argument. I'm not saying I agree 100% with both, but I see it kind of the Farke out brigade that are kind of jumping on every negativity to think, get the manager out. And then there's the other side where it's, Farke in, it's bad luck. We could have been home and dry by half time. I see both sides of this. Leeds United could have been and should have been 3-0 up. The Joseph chance at the start of the game, I mean, it's a gift, an absolute gift. And I get Joseph is young and in the side, blah, blah, blah. I was so disappointed with his effort. He didn't even get it on target. And for me, when you get an opportunity like that, you've got to be a killer. You've got to put it away and just make our life easier. I mean, Farke can't come on the pitch and put the ball in the net for these players. The Nonto chance, what drives me insane about that chance with Nonto is he always tries this fancy technique of hitting across the ball and just put it in the bloody net. Just tap in, just hit it. He's 6 yards out practically. It's so easy. It's so easy.
Both sides of the keeper as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, but he's doing this kind of technique where he's hitting it across and just put the ball in the back of the net. An incompetent referee, a massively incompetent referee who was not up to it. How that is not given as a penalty, I don't know. It's a tackle from behind. I mean, it's so blatant. So Leeds United could have been 3-0 up. The game's done. We're not having any of this discussion about Farke or anything. It's looking like a good performance, a strong outing. Brilliant. The other side of the coin is we're losing 1-0. We get to the second half. And for me, there was no invention. There was no ideas. Our XG in the second half is, let's be honest, pathetic. I didn't think Burnley were anything. I didn't think Burnley offered nothing that second half. And I actually think that reflects worse on us. The fact that we couldn't break them down, the fact we couldn't get back in the game, the fact that we couldn't win that match. Farke, it's substitutions at a predictable time. Someone like Pirot comes on and, as always, he's great when you're already winning. But if you're trying to chase a game, he just seems to never get us anything. And I don't blame him for that particular. I just think we seem to lose any sense of tactical cohesion as soon as we're trying to make subs. How many times have we seen this when we're behind in a game that we do nothing? I mean, in 8 minutes added on at the end of the game, and we're passing it round the back. There's no change up. There's no quickening the pace. Go direct. Get the ball in there. Get in the mixer, whatever. Just do something different. There was nothing different. It was slow, predictable. So I'm walking away at the end of the game going, fingers are getting pointed at Farke because what are you doing with this array of talent? Yes, we don't have Somerville, we don't have Rutter, but Ramazani, Pirot, loads of options coming off the bench there, and just nothing changed, nothing worked that second half. So I'm looking at it going, we could have been home and dry, should have been home and dry first half, but big question marks about the second half. And it's not been the start to the season that I thought we were going to have coming into Farke's second season. It's not. And I'm afraid a result like that, a performance like that second half, it's going to get a fan base questioning things. However, we should have been home and dry, and Farke can't go on the pitch and put the ball in the net himself. So this is where I'm kind of, this is where all the aggravations come from. And this is why I've been kind of, for the last 24 hours, kind of just worked up with it, because I'm kind of caught between seeing both sides of the coin here. And it's just frustrating. It's just really frustrating. But am I ranting anyway?
No, Brian, I think it's fair. And I think, you know what, it's absolutely fine to be on both sides of the coin with it, because I don't think either are actually fully right or wrong. And I think both can exist. You don't have to be like completely Farke out or completely Farke in to be able to analyse both sides of the situation. And I think we're absolutely wild to start be calling for Farke's head on the back of one result and a performance in which showed a lot of good things. Like, it still did. You have to factor in who we were playing, the way that they played, and what happened in the context in the game. I've said it on a few occasions since yesterday. If Joseph takes a chance and Mano doesn't slip, and the result is the performance is exactly the same for both teams, you're saying Daniel Farke, masterclass, is completely schooled Parker. We penned them back in their own half, and they created nothing, because outside of the Solomon slip and the chance that were created on that, they had a couple of half headers that didn't really trouble Melee. That was it. They didn't create anything. So when you actually apply the context to that, you then are starting to look at the Farke tactics and the Parker tactics and actually say, well, people are saying that Parker's delivered a masterclass yesterday and he got it spot on. What? Like, if that's the case, then how can Farke be so far away from it when his team created a one-on-one opportunity after 1 minute, the Brendan Aronson through ball to Nonto in which he should score, and then they create another chance which should result in either Solomon scoring, because he's, practically 12 yards out, or a penalty. Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't be like, oh, well, Farke, was so out of his depth yesterday, but his team created them. He cannot put the ball in the net for the boys. He can. And, we need a serious conversation about Mateo Joseph. I've been saying this from day one. Pre-season, he looked great, and I was really optimistic that he was going to be the man. But you are very quickly seeing that he actually doesn't give us this predatory number 9, killer instinct that we've been desperate for, that Pat doesn't give us. When I would argue he doesn't do anything right now better than Pat. I would argue that, because he's finished. He had a chance to win us the game against Portsmouth and ballooned it over the bar. And then again today, they're both chances that Pat would often miss as well. So I'm not saying that Pat's the answer. I'm really, really not. What I'm saying is then I were at the game yesterday, and Joseph for most of the game got bullied by Worrell and Esteve. They bullied him off the ball. He didn't hold the ball up. He didn't link the play. He didn't particularly run the channels. He pressed after 1 minute and got the chance that he get. Bamford had done that anyway. We've complained for years that Bamford could do everything before putting the ball in the back of the net. Well, that's exactly what Joseph did yesterday. And I get that we've been complaining about Bamford for 4 years, and Joseph's a young kid and he's in his infancy. But you have to analyse him as a number 9 starting striker in the Championship. It's as simple as that. So just kind of bringing it back to point, well, I'm sure we'll go over Joseph at some point. The first half yesterday was very good against a team that would be considered to probably finish in top 2. I thought Burnley were woeful. I thought they were so poor. They had a couple of counter-attacks which led into the way that they set up to play in comparison to the way that we set up to play. But first half was fine. We should have scored 2 and had a penalty. We didn't get it. And then we concede from a slip. These things happen, right? That said, the second half was horrendous. Now, some of that was in part to the way that Burnley set up and the way that the officials allowed the game to play. I said to the guy that was stood next to me, these will be lucky to finish with 11 men. I said it at about 50 minutes. Now, the referee waits until it's just a gesture in the 97th minute. There should have been booking upon booking upon booking upon booking. We actually ended up getting the first yellow card of the game. It's just ridiculous. The amount of wasted time with the ball in Trafford's hands and killing the game. And I get that we have to then deal with that better. I'm not excusing Leeds United from being able to then make better of that. But the officials have to get a better hold of the game if that is how they are going to go about it. It's as simple as that. And then, we can get into the subs as probably a second case. Daniel Farke completely through it when he started making substitutions.
Yeah.
The substitution on the 65th minute to bring Pirro and Rothwell on was bizarre. We completely lost any impetus when Aronson went off. He was the most bright spark that we had in the first half. While he wasn't, electric, him and Solomon, I thought, were the only two real keys that could either pick that pass or get in between them lines. And as soon as he made that change, the game was dead. The game was dead for me. The game went all over the place. The road on injury, the formation and the tactics went out the window. And that's what Farke does deserve criticism for, because he then affected the game negatively. And that's different to what happened in the first half. You cannot put it on him that Mateo Joseph and Willie Gnonto missed some chances. Because sorry, I know I'm now ranting a little bit. But
no, go for it.
Burnley get one chance and Koleosho puts it away. Leeds get two chances plus a terrible official decision, and we end up with them with no goals in a game that's always going to be tight, guys. These games are always going to factor on key moments, and the key moment when it came to us, we didn't finish it, and the key moment when it came to Burnley, they take advantage of a slip and they score. So you can't put that on Farke. I'm sorry, you can't.
Well, this is another concern as well, is the rub of the green. I just think nothing goes our way. And I know fans can crow about this kind of thing, and it feels a bit kind of, I don't know, you're kind of scraping the barrel saying it, but I really feel this way sometimes, Jason. I look at that game yesterday and I go, we don't get any slice, or look, we don't get any break yesterday. It's like their keeper, Trafford, has an absolute worldie. He never looked like getting beat yesterday. Whatever you threw at him, you just thought he were going to save it. Just one of those days. You look at the slip from Solomon. I mean, the Joseph finish is just.
He puts it like 6 yards wide. I was stood right behind it. He literally puts it miles wide. He never, running up to the goal, Browney, he never looked like he was going to score. I promise you. I was there. I was watching him bearing down the goal. The way that he puts his body position is awful. Never. And I'm seeing Gavin there's put that Bamford would not have been able to run off the pitch. He would. Joseph's not rapid. People want to pretend like Mateo Joseph's like rapid. I don't know Bamford's had his injuries. He's definitely slowed down, but Bamford's no slouch when he comes to actually striding out. His problem is his composure in putting the ball in the back of the net. And sure, they have plenty of time to think about it. Mateo Joseph has plenty of time to think about it. Koleosho ran 100 yards before he got to the edge of Melier's box. I'm not having it. It's not. It comes down to the individual. They have to be able to live in their moments. Somebody made a comment and I thought it was really, really good. I don't know if you'll have seen this in watching it on TV, but before kickoff, Mateo Joseph kind of ran up to the penalty spot and did like a bit of a moment in front of the cop. And I thought, fair enough, you got the confidence. He then got that chance no more than 80 seconds later, Brownie. You're not in line with where your brain actually is. Like, less of this charade bullshit and actually put it on the pitch. And I'm not scathing for him, mate. I'm not. But
no. But he's actually won since the season started, and I've not vocalised it that much. But there's a little alarm going off in the background, going, maybe we should have signed to strengthen up front, because it looks damn weak to me so far. If he's not going to take chances like that. Well, we can't afford that this season. We can't afford to not take chances like that this season. Yeah. I mean, we just can't. And there's a few players out there that's alarm bells ringing for me. I mean, I look at Joe Rodon yesterday. I mean, he's had more bad performances for us this season than the entirety of last season. He was so shaky. Yeah, and I'm sorry, but when he went up for that header and got a concussion, why is he steaming in for a header there like that?
It was his fault in the first place, because he misjumps the header before, which then puts it like lofted into the air, and then he has to go in second-handed. I think you're spot on. I just want to kind of catch a couple of these comments because they're relative to what we're talking about. Gavin, I get that Bamford can't get on the pitch because of fitness issues. I'm not saying I want Patrick Bamford, but the facts are he's our yardstick to compare against, because he's what we've had for the last 5 years, right? You have to deal with him with the same kind of Mateo Joseph I'm talking about. You have to deal with him with the same criteria. If you've been prepared to batter Bamford, who's been a really good player for us most of the period under Bielsa for sure, this is our new starting number 9. So you have to deal with him exactly the same way. Otherwise, you are just actively then saying, I had an agenda against Bamford, but I'm prepared to give somebody else a proper chance. Like, it don't make sense to me, because I've campaigned for years and years and years, at this level especially, that Bamford is so good at everything else. The way that he creates chances for the rest of the team and the chances that he creates, you don't create them unless you've got the intelligence to make the runs and make the plays that he does. Whereas another striker might be able to finish better than him, but they won't get the amount of chances. So I just think we have to be fair. Like, I get that he's young, but do you want to go up or not? Do you? I had the same conversation.
That's what I'm starting to think.
Browney, I had the same conversation about Archie Gray last year. Like, and Archie was fantastic, 17-year-old coming into the team, but we're still able to criticise him and be critical of the things that he doesn't do well, doesn't do well in the right back position if he's a right back starting player in the Championship. You just have to analyse him exactly the same as everyone else, because ultimately it does or doesn't affect your season, right? Yeah. So it doesn't matter for me. It's not about whether the players face fits. It's about the performance. We're talking about the performance.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of strange as well, the fact that he didn't trust them at the end of last season. He didn't trust Joseph at the end of last season to come in when a lot of the fan base were clamouring for it. And then all of a sudden over the summer, it's like, right, now you're going to be the guy that's starting. It's kind of when you actually look at that, you kind of go, well, what's, it's only 2 months between seasons. What's the big kind of, so you weren't right for it last season, all of a sudden you are now. It's kind of what's going on there. But
we're now seeing why he wasn't playing. Can you imagine with the pressure that was on at the back end of last season? And I said this to you. I said this to you towards the back end of the season. You throw Matteo in now and he bombs. That might be the last we see of him.
Yeah.
Because the confidence might be that destroyed. Now, if you are going to throw him in at the beginning of the season, makes a lot of sense, because you've got time to put it right and you've got time to work on it on the training pitch and all the rest of it. But can you imagine if we'd have put him in towards the back end of last season? I think it makes a lot of sense, and it does. Ryan's absolutely spot on. The shirt weighs heavy on a lot of players. We've had this for years.
We're just crying out for a kind of a mixture of, like, when we used to have the finishers like Beckford and Becchio and McCormack and Chris Wood. We're just crying out for someone who can put the ball. I mean, it's a massive problem, this, not taking our chances. This could end up costing us. Just getting back to the Joe Rodon thing, and, he was so shaky yesterday. I just didn't trust him at all. I mean, when are we going to see the Joe Rodon from last year? I know it's only 5 games in, but it just don't look right to me at all. I just don't know what's going on. Like I say, I think he's had more bad games this season than he did all last season.
I'm going to make another call. I get pelters for this, but he's alongside Pascal Struijk and he's not alongside Ethan Ampadu. And I'm not going to start going for Pascal. I thought it was okay yesterday, but he always makes me nervous. He just always makes me nervous. And I'm not saying that Verber's the answer. He's been injured now anyway. And from what we've seen of Max Verber, I think he's miles away from starting Leeds United games right now. But I don't ever feel fully confident with Pascal. I don't. And is it?
But you think he's kind of, making it?
I'm not saying that definitely is. But what I'm saying is the common denominator from last season when Joe Rodon was so good, especially from January onwards, to now, is Pascal Struijk. And I would argue he's probably our best defender, is Pascal. I can see the cases for that. But he's so slack for concentration. He switches off so often. And if Joe Rodon alongside him is thinking, second-guessing himself because he doesn't know exactly what Pascal's going to do, maybe that's what we're seeing. I don't know. Or maybe it's Jayden Bogle, because Jayden Bogle creates a problem on that right-hand side. Archie was defensively always very solid, and Sam Byram is extremely defensively solid. We've now got Junior Firpo on the right-hand side as well. They're exactly the same player. I mean, Firpo, I thought yesterday was terrible. I thought it was so bad. It looked like he was running in treacle. He might have been tired. He came off after 70 minutes. But defensively, he's like, again, you see stuff differently when you're at the game. His body positioning when he's trying to front attackers up is so bad. And he's only getting away with it over the last year because we defend so much less and he's attacking so much more, which is actually pretty decent at. When he's challenged, he still shows the exact same struggles for me. all that said, I think we do need to be really, really careful that we're not just going from 0 to 100, because it's one game against a decent team. We beat Ipswich home and away and Leicester home and away last season, and it didn't mean for shit, right? So I'm not consumed by it, because I can very much see it is Burnley. I think Burnley smashed and grabbed it yesterday. Like, don't get me wrong, we didn't put them under enough pressure second half. But for the overall feeling of the game, they had one chance and took it. We had a couple and didn't.
Yeah, I think, I mean, just kind of looking at the individuals, I mean, Gavin Bogle was known as being poor defensively, so why was he signed? Blunt's laughing. I mean, I watching Bogle yesterday and didn't seem to do anything right going forward or defensively. The goal that they scored, by the time the Burnley players in I'm screaming at him to get across. Is this kind of half-hearted run out? And I know he's got to kind of watch the other guy coming down the other side, but it just looks like someone who just doesn't know how to defend. He
actually gets it right to start with, Browney, because he covers the gap off so he can't pass it across. But then he just waits too long, and he should be on top of Koleosho to make sure that he then gets a blocking and it goes through his legs. And I mean, don't even get me started on the hologram, because again, he just don't even make an attempt.
He was never going to do anything.
But again, Trafford saves that. Trafford saves it, because it wasn't a great effort. Like, anyway, we can't blame Mellier, because it's not. I don't think that ultimately that's his fault. No. But yeah, Bogle needs to come across and do better.
And Firpo on the other side. I mean, the amount of times Firpo was on that left-hand side with the ball and just nothing seemed to happen. I'm not saying that's his fault, because it just seemed they were completely jammed up. Burnley's tactic first half, they looked threatening on the counter because they would just pin us back. And we were slow to get back at times. I was like, Jesus. Do you remember like that famous clip under Bielsa where opposition get the ball and breaking on us and Leeds are just darting back like there's loads of, and you're watching this team so slow at times. Like, Jesus, man, they're running on us. Get back. Like, it's just so slow at times.
You know the biggest thing we miss, Browney, is the crossfield pass. Just occasionally. And I mean, Dan James being out of the side. And again, we're going to end up campaigning for Dan James' loyalty badge like that I'm going to stick on, because I just have his back so much. But we're worse when he's not playing. I don't care what anybody says. We are worse when he's not playing. He scares defenders so much at this level. His pace. And hopefully Ramazani can give us some of that, because Ramazani is extremely quick as well. But when he's not playing, we don't have a different outlet. Nonto's not that quick. And Solomon's not that quick. They're quick, but they're not electric.
Not lightning, is it? No.
And sometimes we just need the outfield ball to change it up a little bit, because otherwise it's all in front of them. There were an opportunity yesterday where Brendan Aronson went over a couple of times on the edge of the box. It was put up in the highlights because I watched it back. But there's like 9 players round him. Like, Ethan, just get the ball and switch it to Manor. But instructionally, that's not on Ethan. This is on Daniel Farke. Instructionally, we don't do that. Or we funnel it all to the left-hand side, which then makes it so easy to come across.
Yeah, well, I saw KG on his stream, and he was saying, when Gruev first came into the team, he played those diagonal balls, and it's clearly he's been told, no, retain possession and, ping it off left, right, or whatever. I mean, watching us kind of pass it from left to right across in front of their defence, that second half was infuriating. I actually thought we worked opportunities really well in the first half.
We did.
I thought Aronson was spot on. I've heard criticism of Aronson. I don't get it.
He was good yesterday.
Yeah, he knitted that ball through to Nonto absolutely perfectly. I thought Solomon looked dangerous, and I thought we were actually working opportunities pretty well. And yes, we got countered, but hello, it's a game of football. They're going to attack us back. Fine, we handled it. They didn't create that much. It was a slip that actually ended up leading to their goal. Fine. But then second half, I mean, let's get to the second half, Jason. And this is where, and I agree with everything you said about the way Burnley approached the game. It was like Plymouth or something last season. It was just time wasting. I mean, watching it with my dad, and I said, Dad, how is it like the 90th minute already? I feel like this match has been on 5 minutes and it's nearly over, because the ball was barely in play. We just barely seemed to.
Was so great.
I mean, but you're watching it and it's such a grind, and we're doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. This is the problem I've got with Farke, is what are you going to do differently in this circumstance? This was the playoff final. This was those games we saw where we just didn't have a bloody clue.
Too
And
slow.
to me, it's not even
Too
about
slow.
Rutter and Summerville. It's not about Rutter and
No, it's
Summerville.
not.
It's about what are you going to do differently in this circumstance. If I'm watching you in the 95th minute, Stroik and Rodon passing it to each other, and then trying to do little balls in, it ain't going to work at that time.
Yeah.
I don't want to go Sam Allardyce on you, but do something different. Go direct. Get bodies up. Do something.
Right. Sometimes you have to change it up and go long. You absolutely have. I think the second half needs breaking into a few kind of little kind of compartments, right? First off, you have Burnley playing the way that they're playing. Now, I don't ever dispute that there's different ways to win a game. I don't think that a Burnley should be turning up against, not just Leeds United, but other promotion potential candidates and playing like that because they won't go up. That's my opinion. I don't think that will serve them well enough. They got lucky yesterday. They won't get lucky every single time they come up against a good side. So that's the first thing. But I understand it. Like, I recognise that is a form of tactic to win a game. I'm not disputing that. I don't like it, but I'm not disputing that. But the officials need to do a better job at making sure they're not taking the piss. Because the officials yesterday just allowed them to get away with the time wasting and the cheating and the holding onto the ball and all the rest of it. Like, the rules are there for a reason. And this is an entertainment. Yeah, it's not. I get the business side of football, but when the game's playing, it's there for entertainment. If I were watching a movie and it was shit, I'd turn it off. Right?
The problem is, though, Jay, sorry to interrupt, is I don't think this is going to change the standard of officiating. So how the hell are we going to deal with this?
It won't, and that's my kind of third chapter with this. Is you're absolutely right. It won't. Some weeks it'll be worse than that. Sometimes it might even be a little bit better, but we can't rely on that. I absolutely agree. And the facts are, is teams used to do this against us when we played under Bielsa, and we found ways to circumnavigate it. Now, very similar to Bielsa and in Farke, when we score early, this isn't a problem because it drags teams out and they can't do anything about it. And then we come back to the conversation that we're having in the first half about taking your chances. Because again, the game is key, especially against these rivals, that we take these chances. Still, that said, you're not always going to take your chances. You then have to find different ways to change the game. And I think this is where Daniel Farke really needs the criticism, putting at his door. He made changes yesterday far too late, but then far too quickly. So he made Pirro and Rothwell, and then 3 minutes later made more changes, which then changed the formation. It just went to absolute shit. It really did. It went all over the place. At one point you had Byron playing left back, then he was playing centre back, then we had Gruev at centre back, and he lost it yesterday. He did. He absolutely lost it. When he brought Pirro on, I thought, you're just desperate. You don't know what you're doing here. Because Brendan was actually making things happen with pace and Pirro did nothing. He literally, I don't even remember him touching the ball, if I'm honest with you. And then Ramazani came on way too late, which would have given us that injection of pace. They'd have been scared of him. He put Nonto over to the left far too late, and I think that was only because he ended up bringing Rodon off, and Nonto ended up playing left back. It was bizarre what happened. Tanaka waited way too long. He should have been on at half-time for Ampadu if Ampadu were injured. Yet we waited 10 minutes to bring Ampadu off. There's no way to take an Ampadu off if he was fully fit over Gruev. No way. So, the second half, I can totally and utterly get people labelling, criticising Farke for it. But I still think we dominated most of the second half without creating very much. I get that that's not good enough. I totally and utterly get that. I think we had one good chance that Trafford did well to save. Set pieces, don't get me started on them. Horrendous.
It's got to a point now, and I've actually made a note because I wanted to raise this with you. The set piece thing now, what is it, 170 corners or something, and we hadn't scored from it? Do you kind of look at Farke for that? I go, look, I know we were terrible before him, but do you look at Farke and go, look, what's going on here? Can we do something else on the training pitch here to try and get something from these set pieces? Because it is abysmal.
Yeah, I do think we have got a very small team on the whole. I know that sounds a bit, but Ethan Ampadu would consider as probably one of our best players in the air. He's 5'10", 5'11". Take Pascal out. He's the only real aerial threat. Who actually scores from corners. Rodon is awful in attacking a header. Defensively, he's fine because he can get up and get ahead on it. But going
misses
the other way,
every time, doesn't he? Every time. He can't time his runs or anything. It's just bonkers.
But the majority of the rest of the team are either really poor in the air or really quite small and diminutive. You think of Solomon, Aronson, Nonto, I mean, did you see Gruev when he went centre back? Oh my God, he could not jump for a header. He couldn't jump for a header. I have no idea what he was doing back there at all. It was awful. So yeah, I think it's a problem, and I think what you're then potentially going to end up doing is looking into some sort of short corner routines, but then fans will be going ballistic, and you won't make them happy with that anyway.
Around outside, you could be you know what's going to happen. We just pass it around outside at box until nothing. We'll be practically all second half.
It is a real problem, though. It is a real problem with set pieces because they should be good for 5 to 10 goals a season, and right now they're actually more of a hindrance. They're more of a threat that we get counted on than we score from them. So they're just not good. Not good.
No. I think this start to the season, I think I was surprised yesterday in not getting something from that game. I really thought we were going to win the game yesterday. I completely believe we were going to win the game yesterday. I almost feel like, how sometimes the tide turns against a manager and it's almost like they can't do anything to kind of get out of it, and all the bad luck just seems to happen. So it's a combination of bad luck and things going against. I mean, it's difficult because this season almost has to be perfect. Every result almost has to be perfect because there's such pressure on it. We heard Angus Kinnear the other day saying about, we've got a top 2 salary in the league. Well, hello, if we don't get promoted this season, there is going to be a massive problem again. We're going to cut the salary. We're going to lose players. And, you're becoming more and more of an average championship team each year. And it's frustrating because it's almost like we're not allowed to just have a season and see what happens. It's like, no, pressure on every game. And I mean, this debate is going to be every game we drop points, it's going to be this. It's going to be this. And I just don't know. Do I have confidence in Daniel Farke to get us over the line? At the moment, I don't, if I'm being completely honest.
It's slightly unfair, though, isn't it, Brownie? It is like we've lost 1-0 in a game that we probably should have won against the team that probably will finish in the top 3. I don't think they will. I honestly don't think they will finish in the top 2. I really don't. But, most people have them in and around the top 2. So that feels extremely unfair because a game of football is... it can go a multitude of ways, can't it? Dependent on a multitude of things.
Yeah.
There were a case yesterday to say that Hannibal should have been sent off. Now, I hadn't seen the tackle back on Ampadu. But he'd already been yellow carded by that point. These moments matter. Again, Joseph scores, Nonto scores, the penalties given. All these moments matter. And most weeks, they'll probably go in our favour. 5 games in, we've lost 1. It's his first loss of the season, and it's against Burnley. I just think we have to just temper it a little because this isn't healthy. Yesterday, at the end of the game, I was sat in the Kop. Daniel Farke came over. Most of the fans clapped him. A few booed him. A few gave him the V's. I don't think it's on. I don't think it's on at all. I still think there's too many people suffering with Bielsa widow syndrome. I talk about it all the time. I think we have this ceiling of expectation in our head for this free-flowing, fast, killer football that everybody loved and enjoyed, and everything else other than that is shit. And it's just not. Sorry, I've said shit so many times in this show. We never swear. But I do. I think so many fans are just expecting to be wowed off their seats every single week, and that's not what we're going to get with anyone. I know people are going to say Carlos Corberán, and I get that he's got the ability to be able to change games better. And I would have picked him over Daniel Farke in the beginning. I would have done. I'd have picked him over Gracia at that point and gone down with him, and I would have rebuilt. I like Corberán, but are we convinced? Absolutely convinced that he's that much better than a championship manager that's won the division twice and finished with 90 points last season? In reality. Not just the emotion now, strip it back. Yeah, are we that convinced? I'm not saying that he's not, but I also think that, bear in mind, all this team has been recruited for Farke. We've set the season ahead. like I'm just think we've got to be careful.
Yeah,
I think we've still seen improvements, Brownie, on this season from last. I do. Even in
I
the
think,
opening weeks, I do.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think what's annoying and what's frustrating me is how we've kind of gone about that second half. And I think that's what I'm kind of worried about, just in terms of the kind of hangover from Bielsa and stuff. And it is a point that I wanted to get your take on it because you were at the game, is the atmosphere. Because I was chatting to someone else who was at the game and they say it's just quiet. What's kind of happening? Because I'm hearing this a lot. I'm reading a lot on X about fans saying how quiet it is. We're getting rinsed by Burnley fans for it being like a library. And it feels like this has been something that's kind of been happening for a while. But what's going on there? Have we lost our spark somewhere? I mean, why? Is it the expectations? Is it because it's not Bielsa ball? I mean, what did you make of the atmosphere yesterday?
I mean, I thought Burnley were pathetic, if I'm honest. They were silent for until they scored, and then at the end, towards the end of the game. But I do agree. The atmosphere is definitely not what it used to be. It's definitely not what it was under Bielsa. But I don't think you can really expect that. Everybody in Leeds, week to week, lived around Bielsa. Like, it was just so vociferous and passionate for that period of time. The way that it made you feel, you were thinking about it every second of every day. You were thinking about how good the football was. Like, until the following Saturday, you were watching your goal highlights because they were just that fun and good to watch. And you were, these heroes that had previously been a bit villainous in Luke Ayling, and they were bombing down wings. It just looked insane, didn't it? And I get it. And it is going to be difficult for anybody to kind of carry that over. I do think some of it's unfair in that we can't let that go and then kind of support and get behind this new. But what I will say with it is I understand why some of it is boring to watch. I was watching Tottenham Arsenal before coming on here, and it's a little bit like we're trying to play with the control of possession like some of these top teams do, but we then don't have the talent to burst through them gaps and lines to then create more guilty chances. So I do get the fans' frustration, but it's definitely a reality. It's definitely a reality. And I think unless we went and appointed probably Corberan, you would probably find that we'd exist very similar under other managers too. Because I think I just don't think fans can let it go. I think fans are so wrapped up in the Bielsa word, as am I. Like, I miss it too. Like I do.
I know it is a bit of a problem, isn't it? I mean, it's difficult to say, but do you have confidence and faith in Farke can guide us to a top 2 finish this season? I mean, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at that squad yesterday, the bench options, the strength of that team, and I mean, I don't like kind of putting that much pressure on the team, but it's there, it exists, and I'm just kind of I'm in two minds about whether Farke can deliver this. I really am.
I still think he'll, like, if we just say, for example, we can't sack him. Let's just say like he was locked until the end of the season. I would still probably back him to finish on 85 to 90 points. I would, which I think would probably be enough to finish in the top 2 this season, because I think a lot of teams are going to drop points. I still think he'll find enough to get what we need to get on the board. What I will say with that though is that you look at this season so far, and it is only a small spectrum of games. We've actually, beaten Hull, who were in the bottom 3, beaten Sheffield Wednesday, who were towards the bottom, and drew with Portsmouth, who were in the bottom 3. It's not looking great in terms of the results that we've actually got. Like, people expected Hull and Sheffield Wednesday to be up there, and we're beating them, but actually they're also losing to everyone else right now as well. West Brom, I don't know what you can really take from that game, that result and that performance. It was a bit of an outlier. But what I will say at the same time is we performed the way that we did against Middlesbrough in the Cup, and then turned up, a few days later and gave the resistive performance against West Brom, and then absolutely battered Sheffield Wednesday. So we have shown that we can, win games and do it in different ways too to win points. Like I said, I think yesterday, if Joseph had taken that chance and Mano doesn't slip, I think we sat here with exactly the same performance and result. We sat here saying Daniel Farke schooled Scott Parker yesterday. So I think if that is the reality, which I believe it is, I think you're then finding it very hard to be extremely critical based on one result, not performance, result. Yeah.
No, I get it. And this is why I put in the title as well about bad luck, because it does feel like it's just against us. Something in the universe is against Leeds United. It feels like
it does feel like that sometimes.
It's absolutely, it's kind of bonkers.
Gavin's just put there, Wendy's a crap though. Yeah, but we're saying that now. At the time of us playing them, I know I think they'd won one game and lost the other one. Most people had them in the top 6 this season under Danny Roll. Danny Roll is the new manager. He's the best thing since sliced bread. Like, he's amazing. So at the time, people were saying that were a difficult game for us, and we turned up and we absolutely bossed that game. So I don't fully buy that. And then as for the form, like, I was very critical of the form going into the back-to-back wins. But the form hasn't completely now carried on. We've lost 1 in 5 now. So you can't just have it all on one agenda. You can't have it all just one way. You know, up until yesterday, we were undefeated in the league. We were on the back of 3 clean sheets in a row. There were still some positives to kind of see. And yesterday, if Burnley had turned up to Ellen Road and beaten us 3-0, it's a different conversation, but they didn't. You have to have the context to the game, because it is only 90 minutes of football in which anything can happen. Yeah, and yesterday it just all went against us, as you say. Like, you know, on another day, Joseph scuffs that, and it trickles in, and we win 1-0. I remember. Do you remember the game where Paul Lambert's Norwich came to Ellen Road in League One, and we played terribly, and Fraser Forster, their keeper, scuffed a goal kick, and it landed right at Beckford's feet, about where Joseph picked the ball up, and Beckford ran in on goal, and he scuffs the effort, and it bounces into the ground and bounces over Forster and goes in like the 92nd minute. I'll never forget it, because I was sat right behind the goal when it scored. And we didn't deserve it that day. And Norwich fans were going ballistic. We'd jammed the result. It was exactly the same as that the other way yesterday. That's how it felt. And that's football sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Just one thing about Dan James as well that I wanted to kind of get your viewpoint on. I think you know it's an important factor. I think, is it a case of you can't really have 2, and you know, Solomon and Nonto are slow, but don't seem to work quite as well, does it, when you've got 2 kind of intricate players like that? Maybe it was called for Ramazani to actually start yesterday, so we had the pace and the trickery. You know, I agree. That kind of balance. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what he does. I mean, he's not going to massively change from this, is he, Farke? It's not going to be a case of, you know, it's going to be wildly different going from game to game. I mean, you wonder how and when Tanaka will get in, and Ramazani possibly. You know, where does James fit when he comes back? This is what's so aggravating about it, because you kind of are half and half, aren't you? Kind of going, well, we should have easily won that game yesterday, and on another day we would have done, but we haven't, and then we failed to kind of dig ourselves out of it. I don't know. I'm kind of.
We need more respect from James.
It's not the start to the season that I thought we were going to have, and I know
it's not.
First 2 or 3 games, I know we lost players and everything like that, but it needed to be a better start for me. It needed to be a better start than what it has been. Context and all, and individual performances and bad luck. It's a shame that it's been a bit like this, to be honest.
I still think we're a Brendan Aronson finish against Portsmouth away from it being an all right start to the season, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Like, I hear you. I do absolutely get you. 2 wins, 2 draws and a loss isn't ideal. It's not great, but there is context attached to it. We've played West Brom and Burnley in that time as well, and an opening day fixture in which crazy things can happen, and crazy things did happen. But I hear you. I still think you're ultimately right overall. He's got an abundance of options, mate, and I think he's got to find that balance right. I definitely think the system works better if we've got somebody with a bit of pace down one side and somebody with a bit more intricacy on the other. I thought Solomon still yesterday, first half especially, was very good. He's very, very clever. His ability and footwork in tight spaces is crazy good. His body position, the way that he uses his body to send players and defenders over. I liked him and Brendan. I thought Nonto was poor yesterday. I think there's a difficult conversation, awkward conversations with regards to Nonto, because I actually think I think he's the third best winger we have right now. And I might even put Ramazani in front of that. I think Solomon's better than him on the left. And I think Dan James is better than him on the right. I'm not saying that Dan James is a better player than Gnonto, technically, but Gnonto's so much better on the left. But he's not better than Solomon. Like, fans will want to tell me that he is, but he's not. Like, get with it. He's just not. He's not better than Solomon. And then, is he more natural in the 10 than Aronson? No, he's not. Like, I find Gnonto just goes missing whenever he comes central.
I think it's been overhyped. Don't you think these, like, the Gnonto thing's been overhyped this year? Because we've lost. It's Leeds United fans get into denial about stuff. We've lost Rutter and Somerville. So instead of being like, well, you know, that's a horrible thing, and let's see what the new play. It's like, well, we've got Gnonto, and Gnonto's amazing in the number 10. Is he?
No, he's not. We've never seen that.
He had a good game against Sheffield Wednesday. I thought it was poor against Hull.
But he played on the left against Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So, I agree. I again, go back and watch the previous shows. I've said this to you as long as we've been speaking about Gnonto. He's shown flashes. He was our only kind of rose within a terrible season when we got relegated. And people have hung on to 5 games. The Liverpool impact when he came off the bench and assisted that goal. The Manchester United goal that he scored. But that aside, he was distinctly average. He got dropped by Allardyce. After Allardyce said he has to play every minute, he dropped him because he weren't good enough. And then last season, he got overshadowed by Dan James and Chris Somerville. He got overshadowed by Dan James last season on the right. Dan James was far more effective. People don't want to hear it, but it's true. And now he comes into another season. I think he's a good player, but he's not Somerville. He's not Rutter. He's not them levels better. And he actually now, I think he could end up 4th choice. I think Ramazani is probably going to be more threatening at this level than Gnonto. And Gnonto, for me, is not the answer at 10. I think he can do a job there, but I think Brendan's better.
I thought Brendan was really good yesterday. I really did. I mean, Gavin said here, did we really need Solomon? Well, he's been our best attacker this season. So I'd probably say, yeah, we did need to sign Solomon. Gavin, Cardiff a big game for Farke now. I mean, yes. I mean, it is, isn't it? You know, Cardiff away. I mean, it's a horrible place to go. You know, it was quite comfortable last season, all things considered, but could be difficult. Coventry after that. I mean, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard. I mean, it's got to be, you know, we've got to bounce back, haven't we, Jason? I mean, for me, it's got to be, you know, we've got Cardiff. Someone asked earlier, what do we think of the next few games? You know, Cardiff, Coventry, Norwich, Sunderland. For me, you've got to take, 7 points?
7. Yeah, 7.
What to be 7 minimum, hasn't it?
And Sunderland go and lose to Plymouth.
You know, the problem's going to be, the pressure's going to mount more and more the longer this kind of thing starts to happen, where we're dropping points and all this kind of thing. I mean, Jesus, well, we're below Derby and Oxford. Christ.
I mean, it's early days. It's early days. Like, you know, Plymouth beat Sunderland yesterday, and nobody's really talking about it because we obviously went and lost as well. But, you know, that's the Championship, innit? Everybody thought Sunderland were going to go 5 from 5 yesterday, and they go and lose to probably the worst team in the division. Yeah. So, you know, that's the Championship. But I think going into Cardiff, they might have a new manager by then, who knows, because Baluta might get the boot. They've started terribly bottom of the league. It'd be so typical Leeds to go and lose, but hopefully we go there and do the business. I do think there's a lot of big changes that need to be made. Gavin's made the point about the double pivot has cost us already. My concern with this, because I agree with him inherently, but I think as we've now recruited Bogle and playing Bogle on the right, I think the double pivot is actually more necessary than ever, because we're so attacking intent anyway down the wing and so defensively poor at fullbacks that without the double pivot, you're going to then be in potential trouble down there. So I think if you're talking about bringing Tanaka in, which I would do, I think you need to probably play Byron. Now, I don't want to play Byron. I really don't. But defensively, so much more sound. So what my point that I'm trying to get to is that it's not just as easy as saying, put Tanaka in, take Gruev out, and all your problems are solved in the midfield, because it attaches it to so many other things. And as for... Sorry, go on.
So no, I was just going to say that was one of the frustrations yesterday, though. Like Firpo and Bogle, they didn't really get to the byline. It was like they got to like kind of
don't stretch the play, man. Just go wide. It's crazy. They almost always feel like they either want to pass inside or come inverted. It's like, you don't need to do that. Go outside.
That's why you hear
That's how you create the space. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. That's got to be tactical, hasn't it?
It has to be.
Is that where, Farke saying, look, I'm wary about Jadon Anthony and all this on the counter. Let's make sure we don't get caught too far. But you're killing your attack. You're killing your attack, and you're asking Solomon, can you dribble it around 3 players in tight spaces? And it's just
it's very individual in it again. But yeah, I don't buy into this recruitment talk at all. Like, every team in the division would have cried out for Manor Solomon. And best believe if Burnley had the opportunity to sign him over Jadon Anthony with a guarantee of 10 million quid should they get promoted, they'd have taken Manor Solomon, but we've managed to get him. I hear this argument about the 10, but I think Angus Kinnear, not to go over too much old ground again, I think he did a good job of explaining that situation. I saw somebody earlier say, why didn't we just give another 5 million to Hamer? Hamer wasn't available, period. No. Like, it wasn't about money, wasn't available to Leeds, period. So, and then the number 10s that came to the Championship in this window, how many of them are better than Brendan Aronson? None of them.
Exactly.
None of them.
True. So true.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so true. Absolutely. Michael, I feel Leeds will fare better away from home, as home sides against Leeds will take the game to Leeds in front of their supporters. Yeah, possibly. I mean, it could be a Sheffield Wednesday kind of thing that we see quite a lot of. It just depends. I mean, the problem for me a little bit is, I mean, that's a blueprint to play against Leeds at the minute. I mean, we've got to figure a way to get around this low block. I mean, it's a bit of a concern, really.
Is that true, Brownie? Because like all last season, we obviously went undefeated until the last, second to last week of the season. Oh. So I don't know if that's true. I understand logically why that potentially would make sense, but last season that was a complete opposite. So I don't know. I don't know if that is the case or not.
No. Go on. Sorry, no, go on, mate.
I was just going to say, as for Gavin's comment about Farke will see out October, I think he will. I very much think he will, because he's going to have so many winnable games. You're not playing. I don't think Burnley are great, but Burnley are the best the Championship has to offer. You're not going to be playing them every week, so most weeks you're going to see this team be able to deliver a Sheffield Wednesday or a Hull performance. Yeah. You're going to see games like that where the individuals will win most games playing in this system. You will, because the levels are just so much different to most of the teams in this division. I think it'll be December. If we're in and around a battle for the top 2 or in the top 2, I think he'll be fine, because I think they really value what he brings at this level, the management over the whole club in the background and all the rest of it. If he's not in the top 6, which I don't think will be, I think we will be in the top 6. But let's just say, for example, and January's 2 weeks away, I could see them making a decision then. They're going to know the importance, and the season's not dead and buried by that point. If you're 8 points off second, and you think, right, X manager's been sacked, they're now available, we can go and get him for free because he's been sacked. We can sack Daniel Farke with 2 weeks before the window opens, and then we can get in 1 or 2 recruits to help him get what they need to get it over the line. That's what I see the journey as. But I don't think October at all, unless, like, sure, if we lose, the next 4 games or something. But
if we only win 2 out of the next 5 games, would that be enough for you to go, right, let's get a change?
Depends on the other results.
I mean, it's horrible. It's devil's advocate. I mean, it's.
I know what you're trying to say. Like, maybe. If
I were the 49ers, if you're like kind of, the recruitment team, whatever, at 49ers, I mean, I think you would be drawing up a shortlist at this point. I think you would absolutely be kind of looking at that anyway. And thinking, they'll probably have it anyway. But yeah, I think they would definitely kind of, be looking at that, because there's a hell of a lot riding on it.
The performances matter though, Brownie. Like yesterday, again, we have to bring it back to it. There was very little in that game yesterday. If anything, they smashed and grabbed it, and we were the better side. Like take Huddersfield Bolton yesterday, because I know Bolton fans are going mad about Ian Evatt. Go and have a look at that 4th goal that they conceded yesterday. right? What are they doing? Like, the players are clearly not playing for the manager. You know what I mean? Now, there's a call for after a performance that warrants a potential sacking. Yesterday's not it. It's not. Some of the decisions in the second half were a little bit backwards, and I understand us questioning them, but it doesn't mean that that's then warrant for being sacked. He's lost one game in the first 5 against Burnley. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't fully subscribe to that.
No,
and I mean, I was just going to say about Gavin there saying Moyes is a worry. So you're talking about potentially sacking Farke. He's going to be the manager you're looking at. He's going to be in a pool of the managers that you're looking at. So you say Moyes is a worry, as in I'm guessing you wouldn't want him. So if you don't want David Moyes, who's probably the most qualified manager that would be available right this second, who do you want? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, how much better than Farke could you hope to get?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like Michael says here, in every season bar Farke's first season at Norwich, Farke has achieved 90+ points, and you know that's what we're hoping for again, aren't we? That's what we're trying to. I think that's why I'm so annoyed by yesterday's result, because I would love to have not had any of this conversation. I would love to just be, you know, after the previous 2 games. I agree with you. I thought there was a kind of growth in our play. I thought I really liked it. I was loving how we were playing in those 2 games. I think it was boring. I thought it was great. I thought it was really positive stuff, and it's kind of frustrating to be back at this point where it's all this kind of aggro about it. So yeah, I think it's a big month ahead for Farke. I think the next 4 games. I think we've got 4 games till the next international break, and it's 7 points. It has to be 7 points, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not. And it's this kind of middle ground again, where some of the fan base are questioning everything. Others are saying, no, you can't question it. And this kind of rumbles on and on. I think you're right, though. I think December, if it's this kind of middling kind of, we're not quite sure, then maybe that's the time that you do it. Because, I mean, do you agree, Jason? I mean, do you think, how vital is it to go up this season? I mean,
massive.
We have to, don't we? We have to, don't we? Because that we're not going to have an opportunity like this again. I know last season, there was a lot of pressure last season, but this season was kind of almost not the last chance, obviously, but it's going to get harder and harder every season, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the gap then becomes bigger and bigger and bigger when you then get promoted too. If we had to wait 5 years to get promoted, the version of Leeds United that would then go up and would need recycling would be so much bigger than this one. So yeah, absolutely. So it's a massive worry.
Well, look at what you'd be competing against next season. Like if let's say Southampton come down, which looks likely, if Ipswich came down, Ipswich have signed the best players from the Championship last season. I mean, it's going to be really hard again, isn't it? We just 100%. Need to get. It's just frustrating. It's just damn frustrating.
100%. It's going to be tough. And I mean, we'll deal with the Premier League when we get there, but that's a different kettle of fish altogether, as the teams that have got promoted are finding out. And I mean, I think so far Leicester are the only ones that are able to show themselves with some sort of kind of competitiveness, and that's simply because they've just got quite a lot of Premier League experience within that side. I mean, how Jamie Vardy's still turning out the performances that he is just beyond me. Over 5 yards is still rapid, isn't it? It's crazy. Yeah, and I mean, that little touch from Ndidi yesterday, for those of you that have watched the game, where he passed it on to Mavididi for the goal, it's just really clever. And again, Championship players don't do that. They take the chance and it gets blocked. But anyway, I digress.
Well, what you don't want is actually a kind of semi-established Premier League side coming down, like a Leicester were last year, because then you're buggered, aren't you, really?
Yeah.
Like Crystal Palace got relegated.
You need a basket Everton, don't you?
Title, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The bloody title.
You need a basket case Everton to come down, who then just completely implode, don't you? Yeah. But anyway, I just think we have to, again, we had this exact same reaction after Middlesbrough. Exactly the same reaction after the Middlesbrough game. And then a few days later, we were like, oh my God, that was disgusting against West Brom, but we'd got a point. And then we went and had 2 back-to-back really good performances and wins. I think we'll probably see something similar to this. But look, he is under pressure. He's under mad pressure. And I do think that we'll start to see some of the changes integrated into the squad. I don't think Tanaka came to sit on the bench. I don't think Ramazani came to sit on the bench. amongst others, so we've got plenty to change. And ultimately, if results, because results are more important than performances, while the performance is still important, results are still more important. If the results don't get better, 3 wins from 3, 4 wins from 4, Daniel Farke is going to continue to have to answer these questions. But I'd always maintain, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Because,
Absolutely.
Corbran, if you watch West Brom week in, week out, they're not always the most entertaining to watch. I promise you. They're not.
No.
They're
And who would come in, no pre-season, don't know the players, and try and integrate some kind of magical style that's going to suddenly make you win every game? I mean, like Michael
understand once.
Yeah, I mean, like Michael says here, Farke, they go on the best runs second half of the season. So what do you do there? Because if you get rid of him just before that second half of the season kicks in, you might be missing out. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really hard. I think we need a strong next 4 games before that international break. I think if we could just get at least 3 wins and a draw and just kind of put it to bed a little bit and just kind of,
The thing is, the players are still playing for him.
Yeah.
The 100% are fully invested in the way that he wants to set about it. You don't see, and as much as we don't like it, you don't see the keep ball that we were playing towards the back end of yesterday's game without them being fully behind, stick to the principles, stick to the instructions, because the natural instinct for the player would have been to go long. And we need to maybe see a little bit more of that from time to time, players taking a bit of initiative. But my point is that they're still playing for the manager. I'm just gonna I'm having a bit of back and forward with Gavin. Gavin, what do you expect when he's had 500k to spend? Sam Allardyce said that. Sam Allardyce used to say that. Sean Dyche says that too, about the way that he plays and chooses to play football. I think I'm not criticising Carlos Corberan, but what I'm saying is that Leeds fans would very quickly get bored of the way that he played football and would want this blood and thunder football. He's nothing like Bielsa. Nothing like it. He doesn't play the style of football that Bielsa used to play. He doesn't. But Leeds fans have got this imprinting. He's a manager that's done well at Championship level. He was Bielsa's number 2. They must be the same. They're not.
Don't work that way. Don't work that way, does it? No. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I want next week to just come now and just try and put this result to bed a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Always the same after a loss, isn't it?
Yeah, always the same, and it just get it to bed. And I wish there were a Tuesday game. I really do. Honestly. I mean, in terms of how the league is shaping up, I know West Brom winning at the minute. I think
there's a couple of people have said
that. I agree with you. It's nowhere. It doesn't look at this stage like there's any kind of runaway situation going to happen like last season. It's definitely an easier league, you would suggest. I mean, Sunderland losing to Plymouth. I mean, who would have called that, really? And I think that's a perfect example. Sheffield United still unbeaten this season. I mean, if we finish below Sheffield United, I'm just gonna honestly, I can't have that happen. We cannot be beaten by wild as Sheffield United this season. Like, we just can't. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make logical sense. They've had to change half their team, for God's sake. They've got no depth. I mean, just please.
I just hope they run out of steam, but I think they will. I don't think they've got enough throughout the whole squad. But, they've got some good players within that side. They have got some good players. In the starting 11 is very strong. Amadzavovic, centre-back, Hamer's a good player. They've got options up front. I do like a fair bit of what they're about, but I don't think the depth is going to be good enough for the season. But we'll see. And Josh Madger scored the goal today for West Brom in the first minute. I bet you there's a moment there where Portsmouth have kind of, there's been a slip. Madger's gone through 1-on-1 and he scored. And again, that is the difference between this game today and our game yesterday. And I just want to say you can't label that at the door. You can't.
I genuinely believe there's a curse on Leeds United. I just think we just get nothing for free. We get absolutely nothing for free. And I can't go through another season of it. I can't go through it like Ipswich, some of those goals that they were scoring last year. And oh my God, I just can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah, it's rough, mate. It is rough. It is rough. And it does always feel like it's us. But
Like Tom says here, we still finished with 90 points though last season. A 90 points trophy. What do you want to see happen next match against Cardiff? I mean, is there any players particular that you want to come in? You mentioned Ramazani, but I mean, is it time for Schmidt to get a game? You know, is there something else that we should be able to do here or should be doing?
I think it's difficult to say whether Schmidt is the answer. I've seen a little bit of highlights and stuff, but you know, he's been in the door a week or 2 weeks now with the international break. We don't know whether he's better than Bogle or not. We're just saying that he is because Bogle's had a couple of bad defensive performances. That's it just doesn't mean anything, does it? So we need to see him before I know whether that'd be the case or not. I think he'll go with the same back line if Rodon's fit after the knock. And I think you might see a swap in the attacking line in that Ramazani might come in for... I personally would drop Nonto and use Nonto off the bench. And I would like to see Tanaka over Groove, but I can't imagine that he'll do too many changes all at once. So 1 max 2 is what you might see. It depends on who's available.
I think the problem though with Nonto now, I think we've built up a thing, the club as well. You know, he's advertising the new top. He's like the one who stayed. I don't think Nonto will get dropped at all. I think now his kind of position is the guy that was there last season. I don't think Farke will drop him under any circumstance. I really don't.
I don't know, Browney. Like, he's been pretty ruthless with Pirot. You know, there's a lot to say that the main marksman who was signed last summer, big goal scorer in Pirot, would still start over Joseph, but he don't. I think he's shown the capabilities to be able to drop big characters if they're not playing well. So I think he would. I mean, bear in mind, Nonto often came out of the side last season for Dan James. So I don't know. I'm not sure on that.
Quick mention here, Farke has ruined Pirot. It's a strange one with Pirot, isn't it? I mean, he should be. You know, when you look at... I always think every time he's on the bench, you got Pirot. That's a big player to have on the bench. It's a big name. Scored a lot of goals in the Championship. But, I mean, yesterday, I would love to know the stats. Has Pirot ever scored a goal when we've been like losing, or do you know what I mean? Has he ever impacted
the penalty, didn't he? He scored the penalty when he came off the bench late on last season at all.
Yeah,
I can't remember who like against.
But I don't know.
I mean, I think Pirot is the biggest victim of the system. He's a predator finisher. Yeah. You know, if he'd have had that chance yesterday that Joseph had, if he'd have picked the ball up where Joseph finished it, he'd have scored. But Pirot wouldn't have got there because he wouldn't have pressed it in the first place, and then he wouldn't have had the pace to pull away. He wouldn't. So I hear that argument completely. But if you'd have put him, you have to work around getting Pirot in them positions if you're going to play him. You have to.
I think this is something that Farke should have been working out. I mean, you've got your killer there. You've got the guy who can put these chances away. Who's a good finisher in this team? Who's playing at the moment? Who can finish consistently in this team at the moment? Don't look like anyone.
Nonto is usually the finisher. He's usually the other than Pirot, the one that I would say, put him in through on goal, and he will often score. Like, you think, I mean, he scored some nice goals last season. He is quite a calm finisher, I would say, most of the time. But yeah, not yesterday. Yeah, you're right. That there isn't many.
You know, and I think I don't know. I don't know. It's frustrating, really frustrating. Well, we'll be back tomorrow night, won't we, to talk about it all.
See what time I get there. I am busy tomorrow evening. We've started our charity boxing fight camp at the gym now on Wednesday. So on a Monday,
take all your frustration out, can't you?
7 to 8,
punch bag it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I can start taking it out on
face, bang. You know what I mean?
I can start taking it out on the charity fighters now. So we're actually sparring and stuff. So somebody's going to get it.
The West Yorkshire Football Show round table with all the other lads will be on tomorrow evening. Yay on that one. So please do tune in for that. Before we go then, Jason, is there anything else you wanted to kind of get out there, kind of final feelings on it, summary of everything?
I just would like to just remind everybody that it's only early. I wanted us to be front and centre as well, but we've only lost one game. It's not the end of the world as much as it feels like it is. And a 3-0 result against Cardiff at the Cardiff Stadium next weekend would put it all right, and then we'd be like, oh, actually Farke's not too bad. And it's very flip-floppy at the moment. It's a fan base. Go and try and dissect yesterday's game in the context of everything that happened. They had one chance and they scored. And we had several. Well, we didn't have several, but we had a number of chances. And let's just talk about the penalty as well, because we haven't dug into it. We haven't dug into it at all. The decision was horrific. Whether he wins the ball or not is irrelevant, and he doesn't. It's Solomon's foot that actually touches the ball away. But it comes in from behind. It's not even a difficult decision to make. And both the linesman and the referee ignore it. I mean, the officiating in this country, it's not just in Leeds games. It's not. Obviously, it feels worse when it happens to your team. And it just seems to happen so often. But the officiating is so bad. He lost the control of the whole game yesterday. The crowd were ready to lynch him.
Advantages he was giving that were just not advantages.
They were awful.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And then he'd do it the other way too. We'd play the advantage and then he'd pull it back.
Yeah.
Bear in mind that they were low blocking. We quite often would want to have been able to stretch the game out and proceed with the game. He'd then bring it back. It was like for the whole 90 minutes, he was their 12th man. That's how it felt yesterday. It was like just nipping in with bits to help them here and there. It was just awful. And the amount of time that he allowed throw-ins to take and goal kicks to take. I mean, he gave one yellow card for a throw-in to Bashir Humphreys, who ended up getting sent off. And he should have been off before that. I thought Hannibal should have been off before that. Trafford, several times we were watching the clock. The clock's ticking the whole time in Ellen Road. You can see it in the corner. He was holding it for 30, 35 seconds. Like, just do your job. Sound like Roy Keane. Just do your job.
Yeah. Well, it's like, 4 minutes at the end of the first half. I was like, what?
Joke,
4 minutes at the end of the first half? What planet are you on? It should have been
Absolute
double that
joke.
at least.
Yeah.
So this is what you're up against, isn't it? Because this is not going to change. And we've said this, I mean, last season we said it week after week. And
I mean, the officials arguably cost us promotion last season because the handball against Sunderland, I mean, it's so blatantly obvious. Everybody can see it in the ground. It's not even close. Like, it's not difficult. We score the penalty there. We probably go up because there's not the same level of pressure going into the remaining games. And, everything changes, doesn't it? And I get it. All teams deal with decisions. I get it. But these key, big decisions, like that yesterday, which are so obvious. I'm not talking about the ones 50-50, like go back to the Jayden Bogle penalty against Portsmouth, right? You want to say I'm wrong? I can understand why you would say I'm wrong. I think I'm right, but I get it. I get it's a 50-50 call. That's not a 50-50 call yesterday. It's blatant stonewall penalty. So, yeah. Good. You froze.
They didn't give it, honestly. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. We'll be back in some form over the week, tomorrow night probably, or Thursday when we do his normal Leeds United show, and then strap in and do it all again next weekend. Thank you very much if you've commented. If you've been watching this later, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Keep the faith as well, and we'll see what happens, won't we? It's going to be a week-on-week thing. It's going to be, I think X this week is going to be a cesspit. It's going to be a lot of different opinions flying about, but when is it anything else? Thank you very much for watching. Anyway, I've been Stuart Brown. Alongside me has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you very much.
Thank you, mate.
And we will be back again shortly. Thanks for watching.